our kind of focus for genre-wise is touching on young adult literature part two. We've already kind of talked about young adult literature. So kind of the like lecture notes for this week is very, very short because we've kind of already talked about it. I included a very short compared to what I've seen for other podcast for you to listen to or watch on your own time. You can also read the transcript if that's going to be faster for you and work better for you. And this podcast is a conversation with a very well-known scholar who is also an English professor, who is also like one of the main co-editors of the Allen Review, which is the Assembly on Literature for Adolescents review. It is one of the most competitive literary journals that you could work for or that you could try to publish in. The Allen Review focuses on publishing articles that do literature for children and young adult analyses, but it also publishes a lot of teacher-based research. So there's a lot of articles where teachers are taking specific types of books and using them in their classrooms as a study to see like a variety of different things, but they're looking to see how students interact with them, how students complicate, how students attempt to like challenge, navigate what's going on in the book. So if you are education field or a book nerd, it might be fun to kind of on your own time when you're not super stressed out about finals and things like that to look to see what might be being published about in terms of literature. There's the link to the podcast. Again, it's not necessary, but it does give us a really current perspective on what has changed specifically in young adult literature from somebody who researches and writes about it, who teaches it, and who helps kind of formulate different literary publications on young adult literature. He has a lot of really like brilliant, beautiful things to say, and a lot of things that kind of get us questioning more about like what is young adult literature. So that's kind of it for the lecture part of this week. Like I said, it's pretty low key for this week. Your inquiry project goal for week 12 is to work on finishing the written portion of your project. So for the workshop, you should have had about half of your written portion. So for traditional track, it's like 2.5 to 3.5 pages. And for the board game or the album track, you should have had, I think, 2 to 3.5 pages. This week is your time to focus on finishing the rest of your draft. Looking back at what you've written and revising your paper based off of your partner's feedback, and then doing more editing. Revision is very different from editing, and I'm really sorry that we're not in person because I have a lot of really fun activities to help us understand revision, and they just don't work online. So revision, to give you guys kind of an idea, is when you are doing really big things with your paper. You're taking paragraphs out, you're rearranging things, you are rewriting, you are adding more commentary, you're making sure that your evidence from your novel or the lyrics of your songs are being embedded. They're not just plunked in between your sentences. You're making sure that you have transition sentences. You're doing a lot of like construction-y based things with your paper. Editing is really more about like the aesthetics of your paper. You're making sure that it's in MLA format or APA. You have the option. Choose whatever you're more comfortable with. You are making sure that like you have spelling errors that are fixed. You've got your grammar stuff fixed. You have page numbers where you need them. You've got a title. That's not just inquiry project. It's making sure that your paper like physically, literally looks like a polished paper. So revision is the heart of like making sure your paper is stronger, is better. Editing is like, I'm done with my paper. Let's make sure that it looks pretty, essentially. So we're finishing your draft, doing revision, doing some really hard, chunky work on making sure that it is as best as you can make it, and then making sure that it is starting to look pretty. Those are kind of your goals for this week. And I know that's kind of a lot, but you're going to have a little bit less of like hard other work so that you have some more time to work on your inquiry project. And as always, especially with our project, because it is our like really big assignment, if you have questions, if you're working on doing revision and you're like, I don't really know what to do, hi, please email me. We can Zoom. We can do email back and forth. That's totally fine. But please don't just sit there and feel like you're sinking in your seat of like, I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing to try to make this project work.